Hey, hi, it's Hope. Welcome to Hopefully Here. This is the final installment of reading a book for every booktuber that I follow. I did not get to every book. I got to a fairly large majority of them, and most of them got their own video. I have two more to talk about. I have two that I am currently reading, and then I have four that I wasn't able to get to, but they are going to stay in my TBR, on my TBR, and we'll see if I get to them or not. They are all library books, so once they come up, we'll see how things go. The two that I still have to talk about are The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Shashki and The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox. Let's just start with this. The Last Heir to Blackwood Library by Hester Fox was recommended by Tori Between Pages. And this is a story about a girl who comes into an inheritance. She inherits this abbey, this massive house, and there is a library. And it turns out this library is not all it has cracked up to be. It's a little gothic. It says on the back, what is it? A blend of paranormal, gothic horror, romance, and historical fiction. I do not like horror books, so I would call this very horror light. And it's just a little creepy. It reminds me a little bit of, what is that, Mexican Gothic? It reminds me a little bit of that. It's got those vibes for sure. It's creepy and it's pretty fast moving, but you're never sure if the story you're being told is the real story. You learn about why that would be as the book progresses. There is more than what is on the page that is obvious, but you really don't know what you're missing as a reader. I actually liked this more than I thought I would, simply because it's quite small. I wasn't sure it would be able to get the impact or the punch of the story in such a small book, but I think it does a fairly good job. I think it does wrap up a little quickly and kind of anticlimactically in a way, but it was a good time. And if all horror books were like this, I would read more of them, but they are not. So that's why I don't read them. But I'm glad to have picked that up. Also, the cover is just beautiful. We just painted a couple walls in our living room, and it's a color that's kind of, it's not this color exactly, but it's sort of in this family, and I just love it. I love this cover so much. And then the other one I have to talk about is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Shashki, and this was recommended by Shells of Books. Yeah, and I don't know what her name is. Maybe it's Shell. I have no idea. She's Australian. She does a lot of like reader journal content and that sort of thing. I think she's a smaller booktuber, but I enjoy her stuff. And this is another kind of gothic gothic tale. It's written like a fairy tale. The house, similar to the last book, plays a part in this book. The house is kind of alive. It's its own character. And this follows Azure and the bridegroom. I don't think you're actually ever given his name. And he is in the present timeline. Azure is in the past timeline. And they are connected through this girl named Indigo. And the bridegroom is married to Indigo, and Azure was best friends with her. And kind of how their paths diverge. No, converge. How their paths converge, because Indigo and Azure, as friends growing up, believe in a place called the Otherworld, like fairies, and they're trying to get there. And it's a story about how that transpires and then why this bridegroom becomes part of the story. And it's quite interesting. Fairy tales are not my favorite, and so this one didn't pack the same punch for me. I was never really sure like what was real and what wasn't. Like, are these things happening, or are these girls just writing about what their imagination believes to be happening? I wasn't totally compelled by that storyline. And so when the final moments happen that are supposed to be kind of edge of your seat, I didn't find myself caring too much about what was going on. Like, I never felt like there was so much danger that the consequences were going to be so bad. It to me didn't build that tension. But it was an interesting story, and I can imagine people who like kind of that fairy tale gothic environment would really enjoy this book. I am just not that reader, and I'm totally fine with that. So those are the two that I finished that did not get videos. And the two that I am currently reading, My Sister the Serial Killer by Onakan Braithwaite, and this was recommended by Louise at Louise Savage Muses, yeah. And I am a little bit in, and it's about a woman who is a nurse, and her sister keeps killing people, and she is being called to clean up the mess, like literally clean up the mess. And I'm not really sure where it's going, but so far the sister, Corride, is struggling with what is happening because she's seeing her sister kind of just act like things are normal. In her head, she's like, we cleaned up a dead body yesterday. Like, what's your problem? You shouldn't be on TikTok right now. And I find that to be quite amusing. So I'm actually really enjoying this book, and it shouldn't take too long to get through. It's very small. This one is going to take longer to get through, and that is The Grace of Kings by Ken Louis, and this was recommended by Tori Morrow. Tori Morrow does a lot of fantasy and science fiction, like big epic series, and this is one that she really enjoyed. I am enjoying it. It is massive. I haven't looked into the series. I have no idea how many books there are, if it's finished or anything. If I enjoy it, I will keep reading, but for now, I'm just kind of getting through. There are a lot of characters so far in this, a lot of world building, a lot of stuff that I don't know that I'm getting, but hopefully as I read more along, I'll begin to understand more. The writing is pretty easy, so it's not one of those fantasy books that you have to like learn this entire new language almost to understand how the world works. I'm not finding that so far with this, but we shall see. But it's the Dandelion Dynasty. No idea, but I am glad to pick it up. We will see if this one gets finished. Now, there are, like I said, 4 books that I just didn't even get to. I just ran out of time. That's okay. There were a lot of books that I had. It was a quite ambitious TBR. So let's go through just really quickly the 4 that I am not going to be able to get to. That is, first of all, Writers and Lovers by Lily King, and this was recommended by Sydney from Sid Bookworm, and I have no idea what this book is about. But again, these are going to sit on my TBR. I'm hopefully going to get to some of them at least before the end of the year. Today is December 23rd. So I still have about a week of reading ahead of me, and my husband is off, and I don't have anything to do, so I'll hopefully get to a few of these. But Writers and Lovers, this is one that I think I could get through really quickly. So Happy for You by Celia Lasky. This one was going to be recommended by Gabby from Gabby Reads. So that one is one that I think I would like to read. This is one that, again, I'm not sure about, and this is Forbidden Notebook by Elba de Cespedes, translated by Anne Goldstein, and this one was recommended by Eric Carl Anderson. And I feel like it's an older book. When was it published? 1952. So it's kind of like a classic I had never really heard about, or not never really, I had never heard about, and so I would like to get to this one. I think it's one that I should probably be able to renew a couple of times if that's required, because it's an older book. I don't think there's much of a wait list on this one. And then finally, it just came to me in ebook. I'll put a picture here, and that is Garden of the Moon by Steve Erickson, maybe? Again, I'll put a picture up on the screen. And that was recommended by Erin from Booked and Busy. And it is, again, another pretty large fantasy book, the start of a series, I believe. So I actually started more series than I thought I was going to through this challenge. More fantasy series than I ever would have expected. I did Theft of Swords, which I really enjoyed, and I will pick up book 2 in the new year. I'm starting this Dandelion Dynasty thing. I would like to read Garden of the Moon. That one I've seen come up several times in people's like best fantasy of all time sort of lists, and so it is one that I would like to get to. I feel like, was there another series that maybe I got sucked into? I can't remember, but all in all, I had an excellent time with this challenge. I think it's something that I would like to do again next year, maybe with a bit more planning. This one was very off the cuff. I just one day was like, oh, you know what I should do? So maybe with a bit more planning next year, just so that I can actually have all the books in my possession and I can time it a little better. But I had a really great time. I discovered some really good books. The Handmaid's Tale was obviously the best one. It is absolutely going to be on my best of the year list. I absolutely adored it. And some that I would never have picked up otherwise, even if they weren't like a favorite book of the year. I am thrilled with how it went, and I am super stoked if you came along the journey with me. And if you didn't, if you've just seen this video, well, you can go back and watch or not. It's your life. You do what you want to do, boo. And I will see you whenever the next video should come out. Bye!